back from summer break. Great to be talking to you again. Very excited to finally drop this episode. It's been a while. Introducing Holly Wetzel as a new co-host of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast. We recorded this at the beginning of June, no cap. We've had it in the hopper for a while. Timing didn't quite fit right. Didn't quite work out the drop until now, but we're happy to finally get this to you. This is a few dated moments, not many. I think you'll enjoy the conversation. In this episode, Jeremy, Holly, and I talk about the future of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast, my role at the show, and what this looks like moving forward. Due to the growth of the network, I won't be able to co-host the Oranges, Oranger twice a week. Holly and Jeremy will be with you all season long. I'm going to remain part of the creative direction of the podcast, but Holly and Jeremy are chomping at the bit to get you guys the best Browns coverage after every single game. Holly is the best, and she's perfect fit for the pod. We hit on OTAs a little bit here and the CBS Top 100 NFL list. Remember that when they listed the top 100 NFL players? Yeah, we talk about that a little bit. It came out in June. We're talking about it. So enjoyed that discussion. It's a lot of fun. Look, I could not be more confident in the direction of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast, and I hope you continue to show your support and listen and follow us on Twitter all season long. Wanted to mention a few more things before we get to the show. Next week, we'll be hosting a live Zoom NBA draft watch party, similarly to what we did on this feed last year, 2020 NFL draft. This will be with the Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. We have special guests lined up and an awesome dais to offer live reactions to the draft. Be on the lookout this week for those announcements and invites coming to you soon. Also, next month, we'll be bombarding you with fantasy football content on the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Fantasy expert Jeff Thidoff and I will be diving deep into the rankings, tiers, and strategies to help give you the championship edge this season. Make sure to follow and subscribe to the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Also, I have to mention before we get to the show, our newest show on the Press Play Podcast Network, Sable Brothers on the Baseline with John Sable and Scott Sable. John is a sports anchor in Tampa Bay, Florida, and his brother Scott, you might know him as a meteorologist for WJW Fox News Channel 8 here in Cleveland, Ohio. Sable Brothers on the Baseline will look at Cleveland sports from a historical perspective, talking about favorite memories, special callbacks, and even bringing in special guests to relive some of those special moments. The show launches July 29th, and their first guest is Cavs legend Mark Price. You're not going to want to miss it. Available wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to follow and subscribe to Sable Brothers on the Baseline. Jim Donovan, take it away.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs!
Snap back, ball down,
Kick block! They blocked the kick!
This is the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, as always, Browns insider Jeremy Powell. Jeremy, 2 weeks of June, 2 episodes. What's up, man? Let's keep it rolling. What do you say?
Hey, what is up? Feel like we're getting reacquainted again here, Chase. Back to kind of a normal schedule. Exciting news coming up. Everything's good, and I'm excited about it, Chase.
Well, let me tell you what, man. Me and you, we are not skipping the podcast OTAs. We are here. We've made a choice to be here. So, hey, we have a very special guest, Jeremy. Very, very special guest.
Yes.
Let me introduce you to someone who has spent the majority of her career in broadcasting. She started off on air, then moved to a producer of ESPN Cleveland. She works at Fox Sports, 21st Century Fox, freelance writer for Awful Announcing. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the newest hosts for the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast, Holly Wetzel. Holly, what's up?
What's up, guys? Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh,
so excited.
Heck yeah. So for those of you who might have missed the announcement or are hearing this for the first time, Holly is going to join the show as a host with Jeremy. And I'm going to continue to be on the pod through the rest of the off season. But then as the season kicks off, Holly and Jeremy are just going to kind of take this baby, and it's going to soar to new heights that we never expected, Jeremy. Never expected. Holly's going to come and just take it to the next level.
We're going to take care of your baby. Don't you worry. All right. We're going to keep it going, hold it tight, raise it,
right.
All of the above. Jeremy and I got it. So,
I'm not as nervous because I think we have incredible hosts for the show. I think you and Jeremy are two of the best people that care about the Browns, that know about the Browns, and you guys you can freaking rock the mic. So Like, I'm not concerned about the quality of the show. It's just hard when, you create something and then to let it go. But I'm going to be kind of taking on a little bit more responsibility for the network. Our network is growing. I don't know if you guys listening on kind of see that, but the Press Play podcast is growing. We're launching new shows every month. Our team is growing. Like we right now, we're in the middle of hiring a sports podcast account executive. So we got interviews lined up, and just as this network grows, there's just things like I can't do, and I can't host two shows and lead the network and manage our executive team and all sorts of stuff. So that means some hard decisions have to be made. And Orange is Oranger is one of the ones that very easy decision to bring Holly on and say, hey.
Well, I'm honored. I am honored for sure. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
What if you and Jay kind of take this thing? I'm excited for it. I mean, nothing is sacred. Nothing. We hold everything loosely, especially in the podcast world when everything kind of ebbs and flows, and it's really, really, nothing, it seems, lasts. Holly and Jay, you guys are going to get your opportunity and a chance to make this show unique and your own. And I can't wait to see what happens. I'm still going to join. I'm sure you guys will still ask me to come on every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Big Time, if you got time for us in the late fall and you want to come back and hang, I mean, our people will get in touch with your people and we'll figure it out.
Yep. And Chase, and we always need awful Browns takes, Chase. I mean, there's always a place. There's always
anytime you need someone to predict a lineman in the first round of the draft, you let me know. I'll be your guy. I'll be your guy. But Holly, let's get to know you a little bit. I feel like as the off season goes on, there's going to be the three of us on these shows, and end of the season, we're going to get to know you through that. But you have quite a career. And you're not a stranger to media, to journalism, to broadcasting. At what point did you realize that you want to be involved with kind of reporting and being around sports media culture?
Yeah, so it's so funny. When we were growing up, the sports broadcasters were never the professional athletes, right? They were the ones that watched. They didn't play. So I like to add myself into that category because I could be possibly the worst athlete on this planet. I am the most uncoordinated person. I am one of four of wonderful children in my family, and all of my siblings are just these fantastic athletes. They just got that bug, and I did not. But I knew, though I couldn't play, I loved to watch. I loved the game of sports. I loved, I did stats for boys basketball in high school. I traveled with the team. I'm talking, I'd, go up through halftime. Then I go out and I was part of the dance team. I was a cheerleader for a couple years here and there. And then I also,
which that's a sport,
part
by
of the chain
way.
crew.
Like, don't say yourself
well,
short.
You're acting like you I will say, Chase, I lettered in dance. And let me tell you, my sister was like, you are not allowed to put that out. Like, that needs to be put away. She's like, that is not a sport, So it's just funny growing up with those classic sport roles. My dad put me in like everything. He put me in softball. I hated it. I couldn't play. I wasn't good. I didn't make. It's funny, everyone, when people say it, they're like, oh, you weren't that bad of an athlete. There's no way. And I'm like, I didn't make my 7th grade volleyball team. So that's how I was not very coordinated. So on top of all that, though, I know how much I love the sports. I know how much I wanted to work and do that for a living. So when I went to school, graduated with a media studies degree, kind of focused on print and broadcast. And when I was home for the summer, I grew up in that household. We were working when I was in high school, in middle school. And my dad said, well, get your ass up. You got to go and find yourself an internship. You want to work in this business, you have to. So, and I did. I went up to, I worked for ESPN Cleveland. I got my start there. I interned. And at the point too, that's when I knew I wanted to do broadcasting and in sports. So I did everything from on-site producing to high school football Friday nights. I covered the Lake Erie Monsters for them as well. I did promotions. You name it, I was the kind of the go-to person. I did call screening for the local regional sports network, Fox Sports Ohio at the time. I was just kind of trying to get my hand in everything I possibly could. I was writing for a local paper. So that's kind of how I got my start. Went and worked for an ad agency for a little bit, and a design firm. And then I landed at Fox Networks. I took a step back to get into my foot in the door at Fox Sports Ohio and producing and promotions. And from there, I ended up on the national side. It was at the time, the business of sports. And I think the side of the business that I got to work on that I think is really interesting is how networks make their money. I knew that the affiliate sales group at Fox was, and not just at Fox, at every major network, were the ones that brought in 85% of the revenue. None of us really knew a lot how. It's a complicated business, but it is how networks make their money. And so when there was an opening there in sales and marketing, I applied for it, I got it. And I learned so much about just how the business of sports works, how rights fees work, just all the back end stuff, even to how a game's going to show up on your TV. So it was a super awesome experience. I got to, you name the major sporting event, I was there. Game 7 of the World Series, Game 3 at Wrigley, when the Indians won, Game 6 for the Cavs. I mean, just you name it, I was there. Big Ten championship, all of that.
So when the tribe is blacked out, we can blame. That's
you
not
used
your
to be
fault.
able to blame me. You used to.
All right,
Not anymore.
Jay, we just had Emmett Golden on their show last week, and I think he and Holly have a lot of similarities, and they understood the value of internships and just putting the work in. And so if you're listening right now and you're 18, 19, 20, or heck, 30, Emmett didn't start till he was like, and you want to get involved and get your foot in the door, you just have to be a part of what people are doing, right, Jay?
Yeah. And you know what? There's no substitute for hustle. And that's anywhere in life. If you're willing to out hustle and outwork people, doesn't matter if you're in radio, doesn't matter if you're coaching, doesn't matter what you're doing in life. If you're willing to hustle, and it can go a long way. And obviously Holly and they have talent. So there you go.
Yeah. Especially in this, for sure in any business, but man, especially in media and broadcasting, there's just no way. It is what you make it 100%. And I was so fortunate to work on a national end for a national network like Fox and still be in Cleveland, which is pretty unheard of. I was never not willing to move. It just didn't work out that way. So I was able to travel all over the country and still do what I did. So that's kind of been my path, and it's been an exciting one.
And you've worked with fellow Press Play host Sam Amico. Right?
Oh, yeah. Sam and I go way back. Absolutely.
Sam's great. I just texted Sam today. I said, Sam, I love the NBA. And he goes, and it loves you too. Just Sam's fantastic. Sam's
great.
Holly, what have been, would you say some of your favorite moments being a part of the sports business side of sports? Would it be traveling and being a part of those events? I mean,
yeah. When I was going out at one point to New York City about once a month, and I was going to a lot of different shows and such. And so I was working, I got to know so many people from different networks, from HBO, Showtime. I mean, I was going to these shows where I was able to get to know all kinds of different people in the business. And just like I said, really learning, I geek out on that stuff, learning the business of sports and I view and watch games and watch these things probably a lot different than your normal fan, just for the fact that I know what's behind it. I know what goes into it. I know what the meaning is behind a lot of these things. And so absolutely, definitely just learning that business on that side. And then of course the perks are the best. I mean, I never felt like I was going to work. It was hard. I didn't have one free New Year's Eve because most of our contracts were up at the end. So when I'm talking, I'm working till almost midnight on New Year's Eve. I was every year, but it was worth it because of everything I've learned. The landscape has changed so much. The cable bundle died. you know, the whole,
well, the
that
traditional
whole
cable
business
bundle.
changed.
Now they bundle streaming packages, which is
Yes,
just, yeah.
I call it the cable bundle 2.0 personally.
Right.
So I now write for Awful Announcing, which is a sports business site. And I write a lot about the carriage rights, the rights fees deals, a lot of talents moving around from one network to the next. That happens a lot too. So I started writing for Awful Announcing about 5 years ago on a lot of that subject, because I thought, well, if I can start to share my knowledge of kind of how the business works behind the scenes, maybe people will understand a little bit more, you know, of what they're paying and what they're getting.
Yep. Yeah, you act like that's a small deal writing for Awful Announcing. That's a very large reach. It's a very like national like stuff going on there. So it's good work.
Yeah, they I got to know the editor pretty well. And when I left Fox, he said before I left, he's like, no, if you ever leave Fox, you want to come write for me? And I was like, oh, no way. Like, this guy, I used to read Awful Announcing when I was looking, excuse me, for more information and details and the latest and greatest news. And sure enough, when I left, he reached out to me and said, no, we want you on board. You know, you have a knowledge that many people don't have, what you were able to see. So it's been awesome. I've gotten to go on a lot of different nationally syndicated programs, local radio stations to kind of talk about my articles. I've had a couple go viral. And to put it in someone's words, I did puppies and porn numbers. So that's exciting, you know. It's a great way to compare it. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
That's great. Well, we have you.
I can't put that on my resume, though. Sorry.
We wanted you here, Holly, not because of your puppies and porn numbers, but because of your fandom and your ability to talk about Cleveland sports. If you had to pick your favorite team, Browns, Cavs, Indians, how did that rank 1, 2, 3?
Oh, Chase, I'm a Browns girl. Number one. I mean, there's not even a doubt about that. Indians second. Grew up in a big baseball household. Not thrilled with the Indians this year. Another story. Barely watched them this year. It's been a frustrating off season and on season, honestly. And then the Cavs,
you allowed to speak freely about that? Like, you used to work for the Dolans? Is that kind of
I did
word on the street? All right.
Thanks for yep, Chase. I did. Yeah, you know, it was an interesting look. I learned a lot. They're a great family. I worked in a couple different facets, not for the Indians. So I'll make that clear, but I did. It was one of my first real jobs, and I did everything. That was the ad agency / graphic design firm that I worked for a couple years. I learned a ton, and they treated us great. You know, I got to take my dad to the owner's suite. You know, front row opening day. We had opening day off as a holiday. I mean, it was great. I learned a ton. You know, and aside from the people, I'm not thrilled about, you know, the Indians moves that they're making this past year, but it is what it is, you know? So the Indians are my second for sure. And then the Cavs, and I say the Cavs probably last. And it's interesting. I grew up in a basketball household too, and my dad was a season ticket holder at the Coliseum back in the day. But just, you know, we were big Jordan fans growing up. And, you know, it's tough. My older brother went to Michael Jordan's basketball camp, you know, like it's crazy to think about, you know?
Yeah. Were either of you at the Jordan game when he played on the Wizards? They had the buzzer beater in Cleveland. Was that like 2002?
No, I was not. Mm-mm.
I remember that game. I thought you were going to say when he hit the shot over Elo, the shot game.
No.
Well,
that was in the Coliseum, so her dad was probably there.
That was. My dad was supposed to be there, and my mom made him miss the game to go to a first communion party for my cousin. So no, he has not gotten over that. So at all.
That's great. Holly, what would you predict to be the new Indians baseball name?
Ooh.
Have you put much thought into that?
Well, you know, we're only down to about 1,100 options at this point, you know?
Yeah.
So we are making our way.
Jay, what do you want the new tribe name to be?
I don't know. You know what's funny is I actually kind of like the Spiders, but then people always bring up that it was like the worst team in sports history, the Cleveland Spiders record wise and all this. But I think you can do some cool stuff with it. I mean, I would personally, I don't know. I like the Indians. I don't understand it, but if they have to change it, Cleveland Spiders, I'm all right with.
I have a theory.
You could do. I think you could do cool stuff with the mascots and the logos with the.
Oh yeah.
And is there another major team that's the Spiders in any sport? No, right?
Great point.
No,
I don't think so.
It'd be unique. You could do some cool stuff with it. So I don't know. That would probably be my pick.
Yeah, I didn't hate like I think it was the Blue Sox or something that came out, but I'm like, but it's just so
the Blue Sox.
Yep.
Same, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like everyone else, so I get you.
I have a theory.
And go ahead.
Here's my theory. The Haslams bought the Columbus Crew. They saved the Crew. Stay with me here. Stay with me. They saved the Crew. They're still in Columbus. And this summer, they tried to change the name of the club to the Columbus Soccer Club or something. Are you familiar with this whole kind of like what happened? Jeremy's saying no, he doesn't believe in soccer.
There's like a huge outcry. People kind of freaked.
It's not American. I don't like it.
I don't hate stop.
So no, Jeremy's a big soccer fan.
No, I'm not a big soccer fan, but I don't mind it. Look, I'll get up and watch the World Cup games at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, I will do that because, but I'm not following the Galaxy or the Crew. Yeah, but I'll get up and watch the big games.
I'm not either.
Well, Jeremy, we're going to get along just fine with that comment.
So yeah, they bought the soccer club, they saved him, and they tried to change the team's crest, which is like kind of like their logo. They changed the team name to Columbus Soccer Club, CSC, and this team won the whatever cup it's called last. Like, this is a really good soccer team, and the fans just like completely revolted. And I think they got the name Crew back.
They did.
My theory is that they were going to name the Columbus Crew the Columbus Soccer Club, and they were thinking and wanting. I don't know how the Haslams would even have a say in the Indians, but I think a strong thing in play was the Cleveland Indians Baseball Club. I think
my brother owns the Cleveland base. He trademarked that. So if they choose the Cleveland Baseball Club, they're going to have to pay my brother Brad, who you talk with on Facebook. Remember, he trademarked the Cleveland Baseball Club when they first announced. So
my theory is that's not going to happen now because of the outcry over the soccer club. So
sorry, Brad. You just lost out.
So my theory was that's not going to be an option. That is probably down between the Spiders and the Guardians. And I hope it's the Spiders too.
I don't hate the Guardians either. I think Spiders are fine. Listen, I do have to do a humble brag here. Back in a different lifetime ago when I was big on Twitter, remember who broke the story that the Haslams were buying the Crew? Okay, hours before anyone else in the Cleveland media. I have a buddy who's a huge listener to our show, and I would like to say his name, but I cannot because he is a big time politician in Columbus. And he texted me that 100%. He's like 100%. The Haslams are buying the Crew, and the story's going to break today. And so I posted that on Twitter, and I took a bunch of heat, people saying I was making it up. I didn't really have a source on it, and I wasn't, and I was right.
Holly, we've and not to pat ourselves on the back because no one likes that, but I feel like the Oranges has a really strong reputation about bringing on some great guests and really providing some awesome content, and maybe even we don't break as much stories now that. Jeremy had a lot of sources for real, like for real.
They're gone now.
Legit sources. But no, we broke Hugh Jackson that he was going to Tennessee.
We didn't bring it up with Emmett. To Emmett, I actually broke that story to Emmett. We never brought it up with him. When they officially hired him, I had the official word from the Browns before the Browns released it. That's back when we had a friend in the organization. That friend is no longer with the organization, unfortunately, but that's all right. It was a fun time.
I think I know who that friend was, Jeremy. We're going to have to talk about that offline.
Oh, this is great. This is great. Well, we have a official press release. Holly, big deal, like a press release.
I know. I don't. I mean, this is crazy. Where's my red carpet? I don't know, but this is exciting.
Well, it's going to be great, and we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're talking about the Browns. We're going to touch on OTAs, the CBS Top 100 list, and looking forward to to the season. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable.
And we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports. But this is not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams.
Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history, with the help from some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures. John and I will dive deep into a side of Cleveland sports history that many fans are not aware of.
Plus, we'll tackle current sports topics surrounding the Browns, Cavaliers, and Indians, and go behind the scenes with some of the land's top sports heroes right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, all part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Like most Northeast Ohio natives, John and I grew up diehard Cleveland sports fans. We share a passion for Cleveland sports and for our team's rich histories. So what a better way to express and share our dedication to the teams we love than to talk about it with you.
Scott and I have made our careers in television. Scott, a meteorologist in Cleveland, and I, a veteran sports anchor and reporter. So we bring our knowledge of the Cleveland sports scene and our TV experience right here to our very own podcast.
Every episode, we'll jump into current topics and share some untold Cleveland sports stories about our teams with the help of some special guests.
So if you're a fan of Cleveland sports and a fan of Cleveland sports history and want a brand new perspective on C-Town's sports scene with a brother's perspective, then this podcast is for you.
We hope you can join us on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right, we're back. Oranges, Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, here with our new host, Holly Wetzel. Holly, hey.
Hello.
And Jeremy's still with us. Guys, let's talk about the Browns. CBS every year releases a list of their top 100 NFL players. And last year, Jeremy and I had a great discussion. I think we had someone, I think Mark's, who came on last year, Jay, and talked about it right after it was released. It was like
was it Mark Sessler?
I thought it was Mark Sessler. Yeah.
I think it was Sessler. Yeah.
So here's what we got right now. We have 5 Browns players are in the top 100 players, according to CBS. Here they are. Wyatt Teller comes in at 96. Jeremy's good old friend, best bud, Wyatt Teller, 96. Joel Bitonio, 86. 81, Odell Beckham Jr. Interesting. I'm sure we'll talk about that. 63, Nick Chubb. 63. What? And then at number 9, Myles Garrett, and that's it. Those are the 5 Browns players that CBS deems that they are the top 100 in the league. Jeremy, dude, what is wrong with this list, man?
Well, would say this too. There's also at the end, there's people who just missed it list, and there's a whole bunch of Browns in there. John Johnson III, Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield, all those guys. But the thing that stands out to me is insane is Nick Chubb is 63. You venture to guess where Derrick Henry is? Take a guess.
4.
Oh, where?
4.
11.
Yeah.
Is there 50 there's not 50 players between Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, great player. Love Derrick Henry. Is he that much better than Nick Chubb? Really? When you look at all the stats, he gets the ball a little more. But there's not that chasm between those two. There's no way. So that was the number one thing that stood out to me. Nick Chubb being 63. I think Wyatt Teller's low, but he's only been great for 1 year. I mean, he was the highest rated guard in the history of Pro Football Focus. But it was just 1 year. So I guess, hey, at least he made the top 100. I don't know. He's probably a better player right now in their careers than Joel Bitonio, but Joel Bitonio has more staying power. But yeah, the big thing that stood out to me was Nick Chubb being 50 spots behind Derrick Henry.
Holly, Nick Chubb 63. What, where is Nick Chubb's actual ranking? Because I think everyone would say that's absurd.
Completely absurd. I'm talking top 20, top 30. I mean, at the very least, top 20, top 30. I mean, you can't put him, to put him over that half like that, that's just, I'm hoping that this is some nice fuel to the fire for next season, because we tend to do, better than normal when we are kind of counted out as the underdog. So I hope he sees that and he gets fired up, but no, that's quite frankly bullshit. But the other one I'm really surprised about is OBJ.
Mm-hmm.
making the list. And, at 81, I mean, really not that much higher than Nick, really. I mean, if you think about it, the OBJ debate is a long one, but I know that in the CBS, in the breakdown, they say, well, this is more about like, what he can do or what, when he's healthy. And it's like, as well as I do that players, when they come back, we hope that they're going to be back to 100%, but we don't know.
It's interesting.
So I am surprised by that.
Last year, Nick Chubb was at 71 and OBJ was at 64, and they kind of did a little switcheroo. Holly, where do you stand on the OBJ debate? Are you a pro OBJ? Are you let's get to know a little bit about Holly's Browns fandom. I know you have another podcast, which you might have shared a little bit, but not the Orange is Oranger. So OBJ, right. Let's talk, Holly. 81. It seems like you're kind of like, I don't think he should be in the list.
Well, look, he missed a lot of the season last year. So that's one. Two, I'm not OBJ. All right. I'm all OBJ. I just feel like, chemistry is something that you can't just make happen. And, he just didn't seem to have it with Baker. I think Baker did feel the need and pressure to throw to him. And I don't, it seemed to, whether it made it, whether it was a defining game or not, when OBJ got hurt and then Baker kind of took off from there, that defining week, I'm wondering at this point, that's hard to deny. OBJ too, I think I'm hoping that he learned over the past year, sitting on the sidelines, of what he was missing out on. And the NFL and football, this is a team sport, and you got to be able to play with your team. And sometimes, look, this is not the first time we've heard that he's had some issues, maybe kind of being that number one team player across the board. So I want to believe it when I see it when he's back. I was not a trade OBJ person all the time, but there were some instances where I would have been. Stefanski and his ruling that, he's going to change his tune a little bit. I think that this year and him getting hurt was a defining moment for him on a lot of different levels.
And let me comment a little bit on that, Chase. He played 7 games. Look, there was no preseason games this year. He's obviously still an explosive athlete. Look at the Dallas game. He was unbelievable in that game, but threw a touchdown, ran a touchdown, caught a touchdown. And maybe, and what we can, the best we can hope for is that Baker hit his stride, because look, there were 7 games in, new offense. We've been over a million times how it was such a different offseason, no preseason, hardly any teamwork together. So I think, and maybe I'm being rose-colored glasses, overly optimistic. I think OBJ is going to step back in this year, and this is going to be a career year for Odell Beckham Jr. I think he's going to have a monster year. I think he's focused. Like you said, he's down with those guys. He's going to play in Jarvis Landry's charity softball game. Looks like he's really trying to embrace the team aspect of it. Look, from all accounts, he loves Coach Stefanski. He understands that Coach Stefanski is about the team, and maybe a guy with no hidden agendas, and maybe OBJ didn't always trust the coaches here in the past. So I think he's going to have a big year, and I think he still is an explosive athlete. And look, times have changed with surgeries. Guys come back from these surgeries quicker and just as strong. So we will have to see.
Listen to this. 2020, Myles Garrett. You guys want to guess where he ranked in 2020? I'm looking at it. He's 9. He's 9
this year
right now, which 9 puts him in betwixt Russell Wilson and Josh Allen, which we're going to talk about that in a second.
I'm going to say 35.
Okay, Holly, you have a guess where Myles?
Yeah, I'll say 40s. I'll go.
47. He went from
47
in 2020 to 9.
Wow.
9.
Yeah.
What is his ceiling? What is?
Well, that's a good question, because he got with COVID. He really took, a back seat towards the end of the season there after he had COVID. We were kind of still waiting for him to make these, like, at the end, these major, like, this is going to be the game that Myles is back. This is going to be the one. And he said, I'm struggling. I mean, it was very clear. So I'll tell you what, I really enjoy watching those videos of him that he's posting lately. So I'm feeling real good about being that number 9 spot.
Aaron Donald is number
2.
2. TJ Watt, number 6. Miles at number 9.
No, I'm so sick of TJ
Jay,
Watt. I just don't think he's
it's not unrealistic to say he can
top
be the
5
best defensive player in the NFL.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, he's got all the talent to be. Look at him, like Holly just said. He's a freak of nature. He's a 255-pound guy that can dunk in traffic on guys in the gym. Which I know that sounds silly, but that's a big thing. The guy can run. He is big. He is fast.
He's retired from basketball, Jeremy. He's retired from basketball.
Yes, he's retired from. How funny! Coach Stefanski actually looked slightly pissed when I watched that video. I don't think it was. We all found it funny. I think Stefanski actually was a little bit pissed at, seeing his star, $100 million defensive end dunking in traffic at a rec center with a bunch of 35-year-old guys like me, But he's a freak. He's obviously a smart guy. He understands what's going on the field. If Jadeveon Clowney can be anywhere close to what Jadeveon Clowney was, who knows? Myles Garrett could have 18, 20 sacks and win Defensive Player of the Year, and I don't think that anyone would be all that surprised by it.
Let's talk about quarterbacks, because I love talking about quarterbacks, and it's a quarterback-driven league. Baker did not make the list.
He's in the next group here.
What's the next group, though, Jeremy?
Baker doesn't care. All Baker knows is that he didn't make the top 100 list. And if there's a quarterback who's going to use that as fuel and make everyone pay, it's Baker effing Mayfield.
That's what I'm saying. That underdog. We play so well with that, especially Baker does. He's Mr. Chip on his shoulder, always being counted out. Uh-huh. So I'm here for it. I'm glad. Take us all off the list at this point, because it's only going to fuel the fire. Don't take us all off, but you know what I mean.
No, here are the quarterbacks in this year's list. Number 1 is Patty Mahomes. Number 3, Aaron Rodgers. Number 4, Tom Brady. Number 8, Russell Wilson. Number 10, Josh Allen. And then there's kind of a break. Deshaun Watson at 23. Lamar Jackson at 29. Holly, Jay, we had Hugh Jackson on the show a couple months ago, and there weren't 10 quarterbacks in the league that Hugh said that he would rather have.
6, I think 6 maybe, was it? 6. He had Baker like 7th in the league.
And if it makes you feel any better, Lamar Jackson in 2020 was
top 5.
Yeah, he was 7.
Okay.
He went all the way down to 29, which is he's going to keep dropping. Holly, I'm not a big Lamar Jackson guy.
And we've had some of our most heated debates on this show between me and Chase have been about Lamar Jackson. See, my point has always been, he probably will not have a long NFL career. He probably will never be a pure passer, but for 3 to 5 years, he can be unbelievable. And that's where he's still in that window to me. I don't think he's ever going to be a great, 5-step, plant your foot and throw guy. But as long as he has elite athleticism, he's always going to be a problem.
What, Chase, do you not agree with that, or what do you?
No, I don't think Lamar can throw. I think if Lamar has a lead, if Lamar has a lead, he's a great quarterback. But if you're down 10 with 3 minutes to go, it's over. If you're down 10 with 7 minutes to go, I don't know.
I gotta disagree. I think he's fantastic. I really do. I hate it, and I'm actually, though, speaking of quarterbacks. So first of all, I have 2 questions. One, Deshaun Watson, what is the latest with him? Like that's a high. What is he, 23?
23, yeah, 23.
That's really high.
I think he probably is a top 25-ish player, but we don't know. The organization hasn't done him any favors. The organization's been absolutely awful at everything, right?
Well, and he hasn't done the organization any favors either. Fair. I mean, it's oil and water.
He led the league in passing yards last year. I mean, that's kind of what CBS. That has to be what they're hanging their hat on. I mean,
he's a fantastic player. We'll see what happens. I mean, will he ever play with the Texans again? I don't know. No, I haven't heard a thing. Have you guys heard a thing about what's going on legally with him? I haven't heard a thing.
No, Jeremy. Better that Baker was off the list, or would it have been better if he was in the top 50?
Oh, for us, better than
Yeah.
he's not on the list at all.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
can you imagine though? Like, what if
Yeah.
he was like Wyatt Teller? What if he was at like 96? Like, what a slap in the face that would be,
Well,
right?
it's better than the just missed. He's in the
man.
he's in the just missed the list
That
here.
it is hard for
Yeah.
me to believe that Baker is not on this list. I just
I mean, Nick
Yeah, well,
Chubb's
also,
63.
Justin
In the
Herbert's
list, yeah.
38, y'all. Justin Herbert's 38.
I love Justin Herbert, but
What
if he's
the
38,
heck?
but also this is a Pete Prisco.
Matt
has
Ryan,
never liked-
83,
Pete-
Stafford, 88. Give me a break. Kirk Cousins is
Pete
93. You're telling me you wouldn't have see this
No.
is absurd.
It's insane, but Pete Prisco hates the Browns and hates Baker, dude. And he wrote the list. So
Kyler Murray is 94, and those are the quarterbacks on the list.
Yeah,
Tannehill is not on that
Let him
list.
hate.
It is a
Tannehill,
sin that Tannehill is on that list and Kirk Cousins is on
Cousins
that list.
is, yeah. Right now, Tannehill and Baker are both better players than Kirk Cousins. I mean, it's just what it is. But you asked the question: is it better for the Browns that he would be on the list or off the list? It's better for the Browns that he's off the list.
Oh my gosh!
Hey, do you know where Big Ben landed last year?
I will.
By the way,
no, he's
I
not
bet you
on
top
this
50.
year.
Top 50. I
It's
bet.
interesting to see his fall from grace.
No, he was not on the 2020 list.
Oh wow!
Really?
Surprising.
Really, not on the 2020 list. Let's talk about OTAs. Currently, seems like Myles Garrett is in town. Holly's pretty aware of his Instagram post saying, "Hey, tell coach we're in town." Baker has the offense down in Texas. Jeremy, what is the purpose of OTAs?
So the purpose of OTAs.
And do you have
is to
OTAs for your for the young kids football team?
youth? Not for youth. You do for middle school and high school. No, you know what's funny? In the last 20 years, even high school and middle school has come so far. Like literally, these kids, high school, middle school, 2 hours a day all summer long. 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So there are. And what you do, the organized team activities, obviously, is you start to implement the playbook. They take what they're learning in the classroom and they start to put it on the field. You do individual drills, but you do a lot of slow-paced, on-air team type stuff. This is where you put in your plays, your playbook. This is where it starts to go. They talk about being on grass. You hear Kevin Stefanski like being on the grass. That's what it is. It's putting in that. And, do I think it's a big deal that the Browns office isn't there? Not really. Originally, JC Treader called for everybody in the league to boycott it. And so if everybody in the league was boycotted, I wouldn't think it was any big deal at all that the Browns players were there. But it's hard to get everybody to do something, right? So there's always a team that says, hey, they're not practicing, we can get a competitive edge. And that's where we're at. Now, Baker having the guys down there, and I'm sure that they're in touch with the coaches. I'm sure that there's some stuff being sent down to them on what to work on, what to, the emphasis to be on. So are they missing a lot? Probably not.
Holly, big deal that we have players not with the team.
Well, look, I can see both sides. Because really, at the end of the day, does it matter? Probably not. But, a couple things. First of all, I think it's important for him to set a tone with these guys and being there and present. And it would have been, a really great thing. On top of that, then to have the guys all come down to where he was and they're basically doing their own thing. Look, I'm glad they're working out. Also enjoying Baker's videos that he's been posting. He's looking real good. Okay, so I know he's put in the work much better than the last couple videos that we've seen of him the offseason in the dad bod situation.
Right.
So
Hey, guess who started that?
Peloton.
You know who started
dad
that?
bod?
D. Chase Smith.
Holly, it was on this
I love it.
podcast where
It
and I
was-
didn't
it's
call
true.
it a dad bod. I don't know. It was preseason.
Is Baker fat?
it was. Yeah, it was not. Yeah, he was not in tip-top shape.
All I said was,
No.
Jay, does Baker look like he's in shape? And Jerry was
And he
like,
did.
oh, what the heck? No. But no one else was saying it. No one else was saying I didn't see it anywhere
You
else.
think what it did. Well, the best ever, Holly. Remember the picture of him out on the boat with like Von Miller and all these completely
Oh,
jacked
yeah.
dudes? And Baker literally did look like, where did this guy come from?
Like everyone else had like an
what?
18-pack, and
Yeah, everyone
Baker
else
was
was
drinking a
completely jacked.
6-pack. Like there was no. The difference was monumental.
I would never
Chase,
call
let me-
Baker fat, but it,
No.
No,
Yeah, he was
But-
not in great at the time. He was not in great shape,
he
but
was
he's
not.
fixed it. He looks great.
He looks
And
awesome. Yes.
Let me say this about the OTA thing, though. One thing that I think is a valid argument about is that every single person in the NFL is the best at what they do, and they're always looking for a slight competitive edge. The difference between the last guy in the NFL and the first guy is not that great. So you're always looking for just that slight edge over, a guy. And maybe, and it's crazy, it sounds, maybe that is, 20 minutes at a practice in June when it comes up. We don't know, you don't know. So you are always looking for that little bit of an edge when everybody, I think some people lose track that every single one of these guys is an absolute world-class athlete. They are the best 1,500 people on this planet at what they do, right? Everybody in the NFL. The suckiest guy in the NFL is a world-class athlete. So you are looking for every single edge. And I'm sure Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, when they saw that the Browns and this team were not going to be in there, and they were all there, the whole team, same with the Bills, they thought, hey, look, maybe this is our edge. Maybe this is what the difference between the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl, or Super Bowl loss or Super win. We don't know, and there's no way we'll ever know that because you can't quantify it. But, I don't know. Maybe there is an argument made that maybe there is something to this.
Yeah. Well, either way, I do think the offense is getting some chemistry down in Texas. It seems like most of the major offensive playmakers are down there getting some work in. The defense is getting some work in, and the most important thing, everyone's healthy, right? We've seen reports of some people have gotten injured with other teams. It seems like the Browns, again, and that's the whole goal for training camp, ultimately is get out of these situations 100% healthy, and it seems like the Browns are going to make it through, and we made it through this pod, our first one. Guys, excellent work.
Oh, thought it went absolutely smooth. I'm actually reinvigorated. I'm excited. I think Holly's great. Chase, you as always, the Bob Costas of Press Play Podcast Network, as I always say.
That is a great. I love that. I do.
Listen, I've always said this about Chase. Where Chase, maybe sometimes the sports takes are questionable, but nobody guides a show and guides conversation like the Chase Smith, the Bob Costas of the Press Play Podcast Network.
That's too
I got
kind.
some big shoes to fill here. And I got small feet. So
look, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to listen to a Browns pod that I just like love. And I'm sure I'm going to drive Leslie crazy talking about the Browns. But it's going to be great. You guys are going to do awesome, and I'll be with you all off season. It's going to be great. We will see you guys here in a couple weeks. You guys have a great summer. Stay safe. All right.